Hello friends, recently I posted one MCQ on my social media platforms. It was related to the physiology practicals and I thought everybody will be able to answer this question very easily. But to my utter surprise, I saw the data was showing 25% each for every option. That means the students were not really sure about this particular concept. So let's see what the concept is. Okay, regarding the RBC diluting pipette, select the incorrect statement among the following. So you got to select the incorrect statement. Milk, saliva or any fluid can be diluted to 200 times. Is that incorrect? Can be used for, these pipettes can be used for WBC count also in the condition of leukemia, for instance. It dilutes 0.5 units of blood to 101 units. Is that correct? Or red bead inside the pipette helps in mixing of the blood sample and the diluting fluid. So which one of them is incorrect? Well, the answer is, first of all, let me just add one point here, is that always look at the question carefully, whether correct statement is being asked or incorrect statement. So if they are asking incorrect statement, you got to see the correct statements first and rule them out. All right. Well, in this case, you'll be surprised to know that the answer is C. It dilutes 0.5 units of blood to 101 units. Why is it incorrect? Let's figure out. Let's start with the diluting pipettes, and in fact, let's go even further to the basic and try to understand the dilution, the concept of dilution of blood. Why do we dilute the blood sample? We dilute the blood sample in these pipettes. Why is it necessary? The answer is very simple and obvious. Take the example of RBC count. What is the normal RBC count? 4 to 5 million, or rather, I beg your pardon, 5 to 6 millions per cubic millimeter of blood. That means in 1 cubic millimeter of blood, there are almost 50-60 lakhs of RBCs. Imagine, would you be able to, just take the blood sample and take a drop of it and put it under the microscope. Will you be able to see the RBCs and count them manually? 50 lakh cells per cubic millimeter of blood? It would be virtually impossible because the RBCs will be so close to each other. 60 lakhs per 1 cubic millimeter of blood. It means it won't be possible to count those cells, and therefore we need to dilute the blood. Dilution of blood means dispersion of the cells. We disperse the cells so that we can count them manually. All right, that is why we dilute the blood sample. Point number one. For the sake of dilution, we use these pipettes, RBC diluting pipette and WBC diluting pipette. First thing, how do we identify these pipettes? There is a red bead inside the RBC pipette and white bead in the WBC diluting pipette. Bulb is larger for the RBC diluting pipette and little smaller in the WBC pipette. And most important, the markings. In the case of RBC diluting pipette, the markings are 0.5, 1 and 101. In the case of WBC diluting pipette, it's 0.5, 1 and 11. Now, first thing that you should understand is that this bulb is meant for dilution and mixing of the blood sample with the diluting fluid. Everything is happening here. Took that point? Okay. Now, we take the blood sample up to 0.5 mark and then start taking the diluting fluid. Blood goes in the bulb, diluting fluid goes in the bulb, bulb is completely filled and dilution takes place inside the bulb. Now, below the bulb, the marking is 1 and above the bulb, the marking is 101. That means capacity of the bulb is 100. Obviously, 1 and 101. That means this is 100. So capacity of the bulb is 100 volumes. Out of that, 0.5 will be blood sample. That means 0.5 diluted to 100, and that means 1 diluted to 200. So that's how we diluted the blood 200 times. In the case of WBC diluting pipette, 0.5, 1 and 11. That means capacity of the bulb is 10. 1 marked below the bulb, 11 marked above the bulb means the capacity of the bulb is 10. So take the blood sample, take the diluting fluid, both go here in the bulb. That means 0.5 diluted to 10, and that means 1 diluted to 20. In the case of WBC counting, we dilute the blood up to 20 times. In the case of RBC counting, we dilute the blood up to 200 times. Now it's very obvious why this difference is, because RBC count is in millions, 50-60 lakhs per cubic millimeter of blood. WBC count is in thousands, 4 to 11,000 per cubic millimeter of blood. So it requires lesser dilution. Dispersion that is required to count the cells, it is less for WBCs and more for the RBCs. There are lots of crowded RBCs in 1 cubic millimeter of blood. You require a greater dispersion. That's why 200 times dispersion versus 20 times dispersion. Two more points to be noted. Do they have any units, microliters or any such units, ml, etc.? No, they don't have any units. 0.5 volumes and 100 volumes, 0.5 volumes and 10 volumes. They don't have any units. It means anything, if you need to dilute to 200 times, you can use these pipettes, and there are no units. Just dilute any fluid up to 200 times or 20 times. Can you use WBC diluting pipette for RBC count? No. But can you use RBC pipette for WBC count? Yes. If the WBC count is in lakhs, you will require more dilution, more dispersion of cells. And that occurs in the conditions like leukemia. The WBC count is so high that you will need a greater dispersion of the cells. And therefore, in the condition of leukemia, you can, or in fact you should, use the RBC pipette to count those WBCs. So that's about the diluting pipettes. Now let's go back to the question and find out the answer. Option A, milk, saliva or any fluid can be diluted to 200 times. As I said, yes, any fluid, not only blood, but any fluid can be diluted up to 200 times. So that's a correct statement. RBC diluting pipette can be used for WBC count in leukemia. Yes, in leukemia, the count, WBC count is in lakhs. So 20 times dilution will not be sufficient. Lots of crowding of cells. So you need a greater dispersion of cells. So that's correct. And red bead helps in mixing of the blood sample with the diluting fluid. Of course, yes, this is a correct statement. This bead which is present inside the pipette, inside the bulb, because we already said that the dilution takes place inside the bulb. Mixing takes place inside the bulb. Blood sample and diluting fluid, they are mixing. Now, this bulb is quite it has smooth walls. The walls are smooth, and therefore mixing may not be complete if you just rotate this pipette like this. But the bead inside will give that roughness and will allow a proper thorough mixing of blood sample with the diluting fluid. So bead is not only to recognize the pipettes, red bead RBC pipette, white bead WBC pipette. Yes, that's one function of them. But actually the bead is for mixing purpose. So even that statement is correct. And therefore that leaves us with only one incorrect statement. It dilutes 0.5 units of blood to 101 units. I have deliberately taken this statement here. It's an incorrect statement, and I'll tell you why. In many colleges, They teach you like this. Take the blood sample up to 0.5 mark, then start taking the diluting fluid, fill this pipette up to 101 mark. That means 0.5 is diluted to 101 and therefore 1 is diluted to 202. This is a highly incorrect statement. 0.5 diluted to 101? No. Look, we have taken the sample and the diluting fluid inside the bulb and capacity of the bulb is 100, out of which 0.5 units were blood. That means 0.5 diluted to 100 and 1 diluted to 200. How they teach incorrectly is 0.5 diluted to 101 and therefore 1 diluted to 202, and then we discard the first 2 drops from the stem because it contains only diluting fluid. Correct. So we discard those drops and therefore since it was 1 diluted to 202, 0.5 diluted to 101 and 1 diluted to 202, discard the 2 drops, therefore it becomes 200. No, that's a very incorrect explanation. The right explanation is dilution takes place inside the bulb. Your blood sample has gone inside the bulb and it is getting diluted here and it is diluted up to 200 times. So that's done. And then this part, the stem, contained only diluting fluid. So we will discard the first 2 drops. Then the 3rd, 4th, 5th drop will be coming from the bulb. And that will be a mixed sample of blood and diluting fluid. Therefore, we discard the first 2 drops. It has got nothing to do with dilution factor and therefore the statement was incorrect. It dilutes 0.5 units to 101. No, 0.5 is diluted to 100. Although we are taking the entire sample up to 101, it's inside the bulb that we are looking for. So that was the MCQ for this week. We will discuss, we do discuss many such MCQs regularly on our channel. Therefore, have you subscribed to the channel yet? No? Go ahead and do it now.